In this guide, we will start with a short primer on the starting kit of the Astrologian, followed by going over all of the actions learned from level 30 to 50, in order. We will go over how each action is meant to be used, and when applicable, the recommended way to use it. We will also cover some of the known changes coming with Endwalker, although more number-specific changes like potencies will be available in the description or comment section after the proper release. In particular, we will be covering how the new Astrodyne works. Please refer to the video in the top right corner for explanations of role actions specifically. Let's start with your attacking spells. Benefic and Combust make up your offensive toolkit at level 30. Combust is an instant damage over time effect, or DOT for short, while Benefic is a casted instant damage spell. In combat, you want to apply Combust to as many targets as you can, as long as they will live at least 12 seconds. After that, you repeatedly cast Benefic on something. Naturally, healing takes priority over attacking, so both of these spells take a backseat if anyone in your party needs significant healing. For healing, let's focus on your job-specific options first. I will be comparing healing spells throughout this video based on mana efficiency and time efficiency. Imagine it like a car. Mana efficiency is gas efficiency, how far you get to drive on a tank, while time efficiency is how fast you can drive. In most cases, speed is key, but in certain situations, efficiency is more important. It is up to you to identify when you need to be efficient with your mana. Benefic functions as your cheap and mana efficient healing spell, while Benefic 2 functions as your more expensive yet equally mana efficient but more time efficient healing spell. In nearly all cases, Benefic 2 is better to use than regular Benefic. Helios heals in an area of effect, or AoE for short. It beats Benefic 2 in both time and mana efficiency when it heals at least 3 targets. Ascend brings a dead player back to life. Be aware that it costs a lot of mana and takes ages to cast, so make sure to pair it with the role action Swift Cast, which makes your next spell instant. When a player is resurrected, they lose some of their primary attribute, like strength, for a while, resulting in doing less damage. This is a minor issue, and more importantly, when a player is resurrected, they are completely impervious to damage and most knockback effects for 5 seconds, unless they do anything other than movement. Using Sprint also removes this effect. Isuna is a role action that removes a single removable negative effect, commonly called a debuff, from a single target. Removable debuffs have a bluish-white line over them to indicate this. Lucid Dreaming helps you immensely with the mana regeneration by nearly doubling your mana regeneration over time, so use it often. Whenever you're below 7000 mana is a good spot. If you're interested, both of these abilities are described in greater detail in the role action video in the top right corner. Before talking about your abilities, let's briefly talk about weaving. As an Astrologian, after casting any spell with a cast time of at most 1.5 seconds, you have enough time to use one ability before your next spell can begin casting. When using instant spells, you have time for 2 abilities instead. Try to plan your ability usage around this. If you want to learn more in depth about these aspects or how they work, I would refer you to the video in the top right corner. Now on to abilities. Essential Dignity is an ability that heals an amount that varies depending on how much health the target has left. This means that it has its minimum potency when the target is at full health and maximum potency when the target is at 1 health. You should prefer to use this as late as possible, but make sure to not wait too long, as sometimes unpredictable damage can happen. But do try to use this ability as much as you can. Lightspeed reduces the cast time of all of your spells by 2.5. This does not affect the recast timer itself, but does mean you can run while casting and that you can fit 2 abilities after every spell. It also reduces the cast time of Ascend, making it more reasonable to possibly use it in combat without Swift Cast when you're in a bad spot. Use this ability when you need it, as it does not improve your damage or healing output on its own. Next, let's talk about the Astrologian's unique mechanic, the cards. The ability Draw makes you draw 1 of 6 cards. Balance, Arrow, Spear, Bowl, Ewer, or Spire. It also makes you recover some mana, so it is crucial to use it on cooldown. Play lets you apply this card to one of your party members to give them a buff. The buff is always at least 3% more damage output, but it doubles if you use it on the correct target roll. Balance, Arrow and Spear prefer melee damage dealers and tanks, while Bowl, Ewer and Spire prefer ranged damage dealers, mages and healers. Keep in mind the cooldown of draw begins as soon as you draw the card, so you have plenty of time to decide who to use the card on. If you take too long, you can also use 2 cards in quick succession, but applying a second card to the same player will simply override the first card. Undraw lets you get rid of your current card, although I cannot come up with any reason why you would ever want to do that. With Endwalker, draw changes to have 2 charges, so you can be a lot more relaxed about when you draw and use your cards. Finally, you have the ability Diurnal Sect. At level 30, it does not actually do anything, as all the actions it interacts with are learned later. You should make sure it is always active on you, at least once you learn actions it can interact with. With all that addressed, let's move on to learned actions. At level 34, you learn the spell Aspected Benefic. This spell instantly heals your target and applies an effect depending on what sect you are in. For now, the Diurnal Sect puts a powerful heal over time effect, or HOT for short, on your target. This spell is both more time efficient and more mana efficient than all your other healing spells, except for Helios for multi-targets, beating it in time efficiency on 4 targets and mana efficiency on 7 targets. You should try to keep this HOT up on your tank as much as possible, and it can also be useful to heal other players in your party if they need a lot of healing. At level 36, you learn the trait Enhanced Benefic. This gives your regular Benefic a small chance of guaranteeing your next Benefic 2 is a critical hit, which makes it restore more health. This trait does not change the fact that regular Benefic is worse than all your other healing spells, including Benefic 2. At level 40, you learn the ability Redraw. Redraw lets you swap your current card for a different one, up to 3 times, with one use recharging every 30 seconds. At this level, this is mostly useful if all your damage dealers are a specific type and you want to target their type specifically. Endwalker changes this action to instead allow you to redraw only once per draw. At level 42, you learn the spell Aspected Helios. This is an AoE healing spell that does some healing immediately and then applies an effect depending on what sect you are in. For now, the Diurnal Sect puts a strong HOT on your targets. Due to it only being slightly more expensive than regular Helios, you should almost never use regular Helios once you have access to Aspected Helios. Aspected Helios is more mana and time efficient than Benefic 2 on 2 targets, and is more time efficient than Aspected Benefic on 2 targets, and more mana efficient on 4 targets. Additionally, Aspected Helios' HOT stacks with Aspected Benefic's HOT. At level 45, you learn the spell Gravity. This spell does nearly as much damage as Malefic, but in an AoE. As such, for 2 or more targets, this spell replaces both Malefic and Combust, the exception being that you might want to use Combust while running if you can't use light speed to cast Gravity on the move. Be aware that Gravity costs significantly more mana, so when spamming this spell, you should consider using Lucid Dreaming when below 8000 mana, slightly sooner than usual. In Endwalker, this increased mana cost is removed. At level 46, you learn the spell Combust II. This spell is stronger than Malefic if the target lives at least 9 seconds, and stronger than Gravity if the target lives 18 seconds on 2 targets and 27 seconds on 3 targets. For 4 or more targets, you continue just using Gravity. At level 50, you learn the ability Synastry. This ability applies an effect to your target that for a while will copy 40% of the healing done by a single target healing spell onto them. While the effect sounds good on paper, this means that it only works with Benefic 2 and the upfront healing part of Aspected Benefic. If you need to heal a lot with Benefic 2 for a period of time, then this can be incredibly useful, but as it stands, this spell is niche in its use. You also learn the ability Nocturnal Sect. This is an alternative to the Diurnal Sect that instead makes your Aspected healing spells apply a shield to your target in place of a HOT. Assuming the shield is spent on absorbing damage, Aspected Benefic is equal to Benefic 2 in efficiency, due to Nocturnal Sect also increasing the mana cost of Aspected Benefic. Aspected Helios is more time and mana efficient than Benefic 2 and Aspected Benefic if it heals 2 targets and both shields are spent on absorbing damage. Be aware that shields from Nocturnal Sect do not stack, and they also do not stack with Scholar's Galvanized Shield. For this reason, if you're in group with a Scholar, you should use Diurnal Sect, and if you're in group with another Astrologian, only one of you should be in Nocturnal Sect. Similarly, if you are in group with a white mage, you should use Nocturnal Sect. A trick you can use before a boss pull is as follows. Use Nocturnal Sect, wait for the cooldown. Cast Aspected Helios. Use Diurnal Sect. Optionally use Aspected Helios again. This way, your group enters the fight with a shield and a HUD. In Endwalker, the Nocturnal Sect and all of its effects are removed. Diurnal Sect is also removed, however, all of its effects are made default on the relevant spells and abilities. You also learn the ability Divination. This adds an additional detail to each of your cards. Balance and Bowl will grant the Solar Seal. B cards. Arrow and Ewer will grant the Lunar Seal. W cards. Spear and Spire will grant the Celestial Seal. S cards. Once you have played 3 cards, you can use Divination to buff everyone in your party's damage. The power of Divination is greater if you have 3 different seals. From this point on, you should prefer to use Redraw to make sure you manage to grab one of each seal within the 2-minute cooldown of Divination. That means 4 plays for 3 seals, as best as you can. To assist you with trashing cards you don't want the seal from, you also learn the ability Minor Arcana. This ability turns into either Lord of Crowns or Lady of Crowns depending on whether you have a close range preferring card or a long range preferring card. These crown cards buff the damage of their target by 4% instead of 3 and doubles to 8% instead of 6 if used on the correct type. If you already have your 3 seals for Divination, you should use extra cards on Minor Arcana. You can also trash cards with a seal you don't want to store with this. In Endwalker, a few important things will change. First, the Minor Arcana ability is moved to a higher level and reworked to a different effect. Second, Divination no longer interacts with the card mechanic and is now always the 6%, which in Shadowbringers happened with 3 different seals. To make use of the seals, now renamed Astro Signs, the new ability Astrodyne is introduced. This ability has no cooldown and can only be used once you've played 3 cards. When you have played 3 cards, the effect of Astrodyne is improved based on how many unique Astro Signs you have. With 3 identical Astro Signs, it adds a powerful mana regeneration effect. With 2 unique Astro Signs, it additionally also reduces your cast and recast timer. With 3 unique Astro Signs, it also additionally adds a damage and healing increase. All 3 effects last 15 seconds. As long as you make use of the Astrodyne ability before playing your next card, you are very free on when you wish to use this buff. To round off, let's first cover attack rotation, then healing, and then card management. For single target, you use Combust II and make sure to reapply it as it does more than 3 times the damage of Benefic over its duration. Then, if there's nothing else, use Benefic repeatedly on your target. For 2 or 3 targets, spread Combust to all targets, assuming they live 18 and 27 seconds respectively, and then use Gravity. For 4 or more targets, just spam Gravity. Make sure to use Lucid Dreaming so your mana does not run out. For healing, while this is almost a subjective decision, I would highly advise you always use Diurnal Sect when solo healing and only use Nocturnal Sect if your co-healer is a white mage or another Astrologian that prefers Diurnal Sect. Keep Diurnal Aspected Benefic up on your tank and use Benefic 2 when individuals need healing. If multiple need healing, use Diurnal Aspected Helios and let it heal them up. No reason to spam. If you need to top everyone up for an upcoming mechanic, use regular Helios once after Diurnal Aspected Helios. Essential Dignity is a powerful tool to heal one player up from very low. Generally, you want to keep it for your tank, but if someone else needs it, don't sit on it. When using Nocturnal Sect, you should use Nocturnal Aspected Benefic when your tank is actively taking damage, and preferably only if the initial heal will also benefit the tank. Nocturnal Aspected Helios should be used for AoE healing, but if you're certain most of the targets won't actually take damage in the next 30 seconds, then regular Helios will heal for more. Make sure to use your Swift cast alongside Ascend. If you need to cast a lot of spells while on the move, or for some reason you need to cast several abilities in quick succession, Lightspeed can do both. You can also use Lightspeed to more quickly eke out 2 Ascents, although this is not recommended and should be seen as a desperate last resort. Make sure to use Lucid Dreaming regularly. Remember that Asuna can remove dangerous or annoying debuffs if the bluish-white line is present over the debuff icon. Regarding card management, Once you have Divination, the first card you get you can redraw once if you want, as the charge of redraw will be available for the next card. You can see in your Arcana gauge either a Sun for Solar, Moon for Lunar, or a blue dot for Celestial, depending on what card you spent. On your second card, you should redraw until it has a seal you do not already have. On average, this should happen either on the initial draw or in one redraw, but do what needs to be done. On your third card, you should again redraw until it has a seal you do not already have. In both the case of the second and third card, you have enough time every 2 minutes to discard one of them using Minor Arcana without falling behind. The damage gain from having 3 different seals isn't large enough, however, to delay the Divination cooldown to ensure you get 3 different seals. So if you are unlucky, just let the fourth card be what it may be and get that third seal. Keep in mind that you only generate seals from card play when in combat, so don't use your cards before you are in combat, either by attacking an enemy or by healing the tank when they are in combat. You can draw cards while not in combat, so if you don't have a card in hand, make sure to draw as soon as the cooldown is up. This can sometimes lead to you starting an encounter by playing 2 cards back to back, making the timer for Divination even more lenient. Do also keep in mind that since a cooldown of draw starts when you draw, you don't have to rush playing the card. Just get your things done, 1 ability per spell cast. In Endwalker, the way you handle your cards doesn't change much. The difference is you have less redraws and what the payoff is. Thank you for watching. If you found something a bit confusing, have any questions or anything to add, please leave a comment down below. Fun fact, the cards of the Astrologian used to have much more unique effects. Balance used to be the one giving damage bonus, while Arrow gave attack speed, Spear gave crit chance, Bowl gave damage reduction, Ewer gave mana regeneration, and Spire gave the now removed TP regeneration.